I don't know, I can't fathom staying in one spot for the rest of my life. So I've been everywhere. And I think it would just drive me a little crazy.
Meet Jodi Arias, the woman at the center of one of the most infamous and chilling murder cases in recent American history. Back in 2008, her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, was found brutally murdered in his home in Mesa, Arizona. He'd been stabbed 29 times, had his throat slit, and was shot in the head. The scene was absolutely horrific. From the start, something about the case was off. Jodi claimed she had nothing to do with it. She said she was on her way to Utah to visit a new guy. But police weren't convinced. Travis's friends told investigators that Jodi had been acting like a stalker, and they thought she should be looked at more closely. That's when things started to unravel. Jodi agreed to be fingerprinted, which ended up connecting her to the crime scene. There was a bloody handprint that contained both her and Travis's DNA, and long brown hairs were found in the bathroom. But the biggest clue? A digital camera found in the washing machine. Somehow, even after going through a wash cycle, it still had photos on it. Pictures of Jodi and Travis taken the day he was killed. Detective Esteban Flores, who was one of the first on the scene, was also the one Jodi called after hearing about Travis's death. Initially, she stuck to her story, but after spending just one night in jail, she changed it, now saying she had been there, and that they'd had sex, taken pictures, and then been attacked by masked intruders. Police didn't buy it. Eventually, it was revealed that a .25 caliber gun, the same kind used in the murder, had gone missing from Jodi's grandparents' house not long before Travis's death. That first police interrogation, which lasted more than 7 hours, is especially eerie to watch. We'll be breaking down the most important moments from it. Jodi Arias sat handcuffed in the interrogation room until Detective Esteban Flores came in, uncuffed her, offered her some water, and got things started. The video kicks off with Flores introducing himself and his partner, then easing into the conversation by asking Jodi a few basic questions about her relationship with Travis Alexander. She immediately denies having anything to do with his death, claiming she was up in Northern California at the time.
It kind of sounded immature. It's more like my Dear Travis kind of letter. And so I took it down because...
More personal?
Yeah, some of it was detailed, a little more personal. Not too personal, nothing inappropriate. I just felt funny. I think because I'm a photographer, I tend to communicate more through pictures, so I posted a ton of pictures that I had of him, and I have a ton more that I just can't access right now, and videos and things that I know his family would want, but so I posted pictures and I took that down, and I posted something last week, but other than that, I've been on Facebook and MySpace a lot, looking at his profile, looking at his pictures, reading things about his obituaries and any news updates, and you know, there's legacy.com where you can write something about him.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those postings.
I didn't realize until I actually spoke with Ryan Burns. He told the guy that's in Utah. And we've been talking a lot, and we try not to talk about that because it's kind of like, ugh. And plus, Travis is my ex-boyfriend, but at the same time, he's my friend. So while I'm mourning my friend, how do you talk to your new potential, possible, maybe person that you might start dating about your friend, even though he was your ex-boyfriend? So it's kind of a gray area. I try not to talk about him too much, but he comes up a lot. And it was through him that I learned that he said, you know, if you come out to Utah, things are really weird because everyone thinks that you could have had a hand.
And I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody's pointing a finger at you.
I know.
You know, everybody is saying, I don't understand what happened to Travis. I don't know who killed him. But you need to look at Jodi. And sometimes the simplest answers are the correct ones. And that's one of the reasons I started looking at you a little bit closer. And over the last month or so, I've gotten into Travis's life, talked to all his friends, his family. I got a really good understanding of who he is now.
Jodi begins telling her story, but her tone is strangely casual, almost like she's just chatting with an old friend, not like someone discussing a murdered ex-boyfriend. Detective Flores quickly lets her know that he's gotten to know Travis through the people he's spoken to in the last few days. Then he shifts gears and asks her what kept her around after the breakup.
Having fun with no responsibilities, and they would regret getting married. And I think if you're strong in the church, that's not so much a problem, but
Yeah, depends on who you surround yourself with, too. If you surround yourself with the right people, it's a different story. But, that's where he was. And did you guys ever discuss possibly getting married or anything?
when we were dating, we did.
Okay.
Once we broke up, he brought it up. He actually proposed to me a lot of times, but he wasn't serious. I think he was serious once, and it was when we broke up. And that was really hard because we were on the phone, and it was just like none of that stuff should be done on the phone anyway, but I was hundreds of miles away. And I told him that I loved him. We didn't say I love you during our relationship, but we said it afterward. It was weird.
Okay.
I said, this isn't, breaking up with him on the phone wasn't really the way I wanted to do it, but it was kind of a situation that had just come to a point where it just couldn't be ignored anymore. And
Well, let's move to after the breakup.
oh, okay.
What kept you in Mesa at that point?
I actually moved to Mesa a few weeks after we broke up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the timeline goes, but I mean, if you want to call it our official breakup, shortly thereafter, it's like we were still seeing each
So
other.
you guys were seeing each other, but it was a long distance type relationship.
It was always long distance when we were officially dating. We dated from about the beginning of February to about the end of June. So
Okay.
February, March, April, May, June, about 5 months total.
Okay. In June of 2007, you guys broke up, and then
June
you moved to
29th.
Mesa.
Yeah, I moved to Mesa sort of.
Most
few
people,
weeks.
when they break up, they kind of go their
I
own
know,
way.
and plans were already in order for me to move there. I was already speaking with a friend who was, I was going to be her roommate, and I was her roommate for a short time.
Mhm.
She's kind of flighty. She's a great girl, though. I had talked to Travis about maybe going to Southern California instead,
Okay.
and he's really persuasive.
He persuaded you to stay there in Mesa?
He kind of was playing up all the advantages if I did come to Mesa,
Mhm.
and if I did, he said, it's a great place. We could still see each other and hang out on occasion. This church is very strong. You'll make a lot of friends. And I already knew all this stuff prior because we talked about that. And so I went ahead and just made the move. It sounded at the time like a good idea.
And you guys continued to kind of see each other at that time?
Yeah, at the time I was sort of living more across town over by Greenfield. Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
It was up Greenfield near Broadway. Greenfield and Broadway were the nearest cross streets. And that's where the girl that I was originally talking with, I moved in with her.
Yeah, it's kind of far from
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah. The thing about her, and just to give you a background of why I moved suddenly, she approached me the weekend after I got there and said, hey, she knocked on my door, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. And she moved in with her boyfriend, and they were engaged.
Okay.
And she said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that Scott and I went to Vegas last weekend to tie the knot. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, we haven't told anyone, but we didn't want to live in sin, so we're gonna, and she had already been sealed in the temple once and was waiting for her cancel, or
Yeah.
her
Her sealing to be
to be canceled. So they were gonna have a civil wedding, on a beach in Oregon, and they did that the following weekend. She told me that on a Monday or Tuesday, it was the beginning of the week, and she said, the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm getting married this weekend, and I have to go out of town a few days ahead of Scott, to make arrangements, and now that he's a married man, we don't feel it's right that you be here in the house.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to inconvenience you, but is there any way you could stay with somebody else or just find another place? At the time I was waiting on a house in Gilbert, because I already knew they were getting married, so I was kind of looking anyway, and there was a great girl named Brenda, and she was waiting on her keys for the mortgage to go through, and it was a great ward, and it was a great house, and it was brand new construction and all that. It was really nice, but she didn't get her keys for months and months. I think she's in the house now, but I don't know, I haven't talked to her. So I scrambled. I went to the Institute, I wrote down a bunch of phone numbers, I called them all, a lot of them, I got voicemails. One girl that answered, her name was Tiffany, and she knew Travis. And she was at his services in Arizona and as well, and we've just remained friends sort of like on MySpace and Facebook and that kind of thing. But she said, hey, sorry, that's an outdated posting, I forgot to take it down, but go to this website. So ldshousing.net, I went there. I made 3 phone calls for the places that were within my price range. I didn't think to look where they were. The one girl that called me back, her name was Shannon Darricott. She said, here's my place, here's the directions, go ahead and go out and come see the house. It was available, so we did.
No, go ahead.
You have to get that?
No.
Okay. So I moved out there, and when Travis found out it was so close to him, he freaked out about it. And I made sure to check that it wasn't, that we wouldn't be in the same ward. And it was within his ward boundaries, but it was also within another singles ward boundary. So of course I'm gonna go the other one, because it would just be kind of weird. I mean, I didn't know about him and Lisa at first. So I don't know if they were even dating at that time. I don't know what their whole timeline was. But it still would have been weird, and it wouldn't have made Travis very
during that
comfortable.
time that he was seeing Lisa, did you continue to see him as well?
Yeah, and I didn't know that he was seeing her.
Okay.
You know.
But he would call you and have you come over?
Yeah.
I know there was a time when you, I guess, were cleaning his house too for extra money or something.
Yeah, I did that.
He hired you.
Yeah, I did that, because he knew that I was struggling, and he's like, I've been doing the math, and that happened pretty much right on. I think that started in August. He's like, I've done the math, and I feel that I can be more protective. My time is more valuable than X amount of dollars per hour, so why don't I pay you this per hour, and I'll work, and you can make a little bit of money.
Okay.
So that helped.
That makes sense. And that was around the same time frame as the move and back and forth?
Yeah, it was like a few weeks after the move. Okay. I was still living with Rachel over on Greenfield.
Okay.
Before, when that started. And he sent me this picture, and he's like, this is your uniform, have it by Friday, or Thursday, or whatever, and it was this French paint thing. I was like, no.
Yeah, that's him, typical.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's a very flirty guy. And
he is.
Now, obviously the Rachel relation, or not
Lisa?
Lisa relationship didn't work out, and
They go back and forth about the nature of the relationship, how it was long distance, how she had considered moving closer to him. Most of what she shares early on feels pretty surface level. When they started dating, how Travis cared for her but had cold feet about commitment, and how he once told her she wasn't marriage material.
Really looked up to them. And I thought I would have laughed it off, and I thought it was kind of funny, but I feared inside that I was losing their respect. So when I talked to him next, I was like, what do I do? What do I say? And he ended up writing this long letter to Sky saying, I just got off the phone with a very reluctant to talk to me Jodi, And she wrote back saying something to the effect like, I wouldn't want my sister to date you. Why do you kiss Jodi in the dark and then act like you guys aren't even together in the daytime? Things like that.
That's a good statement, because that kind of sums up the relationship that you had with him. It seems like he liked you, he loved you. He wanted to be with you, but he was reluctant to make a commitment first off. And truly, he didn't think that you were marriage material. And I don't know why not. I mean, I see you. You're a wonderful girl. You're struggling. You're trying to make your way through life, and I don't see why you guys couldn't have made it.
I think we have very different philosophies on a lot of ways. We would argue about the dumbest things, and he would just want me to admit that he was right, and I would happily do that.
Well, that's a man thing.
And I should have just known better and admitted that. I eventually learned how to argue with Travis, and it's yes,
Talk to my
Travis.
wife. She's like, okay, fine, you're right.
Yeah, eventually that's what I began to do with him. It's like the more I just agree with him, the sooner the argument gets over, and the sooner we can make up. And the makeup was always great. But there were so many times where I just couldn't wrap my mind around what he would. I could, but I would try to get him to do the same for me. Like there was a time when I broke down on the way to LA once when I was going to watch Chris Hughes do a training, and this was January, mid-January maybe of 2007. And my car got a flat tire, so I had at the time roadside assistance because my car was still under warranty. and they went to take the car in to change the tire and realized that when they sold me the car, they didn't give me the wheel lock key.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for anti-theft, there was wheel locks, so I had to get a hotel room. I had to get my car towed. It was a big nightmare. And I was kind of hungry. It was dinner time. It was 7:38, and it was dark because it was January. And the tow truck guy said, you know, there's a Denny's 2 blocks down here, and there's a Jack in the Box there, and he was driving me to the motel. I said, is there an IHOP around? Because I really like IHOP. He's like, yeah, but it's kind of like 5 miles back in the other direction. I was like, okay. He's like, I can drive you there if you want. And I was like, he's like this short Mexican guy, and he seemed really harmless, and I was like, okay. And he, you know, and I asked him about his life, and he had a wife and kids, and so he wasn't flirting, or he had a girlfriend or something, I don't remember.
Just trying to be nice to you.
Just being nice. And so I ended up telling him, and he didn't ever come on me or ever say anything inappropriate, and then he drove me back and dropped me off, and that was that. And I got to eat. And so I told that to Travis, and he didn't say anything at first, but it got back to Sky, and Sky was like, why didn't you call me? And then I think eventually that was used against me to establish a pattern that I do weird things like that. So that's something we had arguments about a lot, was he's like, I just think that
So he was truly upset with you about that. He
And
felt a little jealous, but
he told me once that he was a little bit jealous when he found out that I went on those dates. He's like, but I know we're not dating. And he's like, I guess I am a little bit jealous, but with these other incidences, he said it just concerns him.
okay.
Because he thought that I would get myself into a situation where I'd get hurt because I have that sort of attitude. And I was really, since I joined Prepaid, I've been really trying to break out of my bubble and do things that are a little uncomfortable, as far as talking to people. And you know, I made a resolution this year to overcome a few fears that I have, that I'm really scared of. So I think that by getting into that a little, then I can, you know, overcome some of that. But he did act jealous, but he wouldn't say he was jealous. He would just say
But
he
he
was
would
concerned.
tell other people about it.
What do you mean?
Did he tell Sky Hughes?
Oh yeah, I guess it got.
Chris about
I
it?
may have told Sky about that.
But they probably had a conversation with him, and he probably voiced his opinion.
They had
on how
many
he didn't like it.
conversations. I know that him and Sky had a lot of fights and arguments, and and I was the root of that a lot of time. But I think, you know, all in all, they, especially more recently, they got along a lot better. I think she gave him a really hard time about our relationship, so that's one of the reasons he really wanted to keep it under wraps.
So, you know, moving over to his trip to Cancun that he was going to, when did you first find out about that he was going with Mimi?
Oh, I found out about that at his memorial services on Monday. It was the Monday night memorial service.
Okay. So you didn't know that he was going to Cancun?
I knew he was going, yeah.
Okay. You didn't know he was taking Mimi?
I didn't know that. I think that's awesome, actually.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Mimi had called him a week or two before, and I told him, look, if you want to take somebody else, it's fine, but I have something to tell you. I don't look at you that way. I don't look at you as a boyfriend. If you want to be friends, we can be friends. And that really broke his heart.
I know. I mean, he didn't tell me that, but I found out from his bishop afterward when I talked to his bishop. And his bishop did say that Travis really took that one hard, and he said he took it to heart. And he said he realizes that it's, speaking from a bishop's perspective, he said it's because, you know, Mimi is of a certain caliber when it comes to her spirituality, and Travis was just in another
He's
place.
struggling. And that's something he struggled with for a long time.
Well, I feel responsible for that partly.
Why do you feel responsible?
Because I had moved away, but I had participated with him in so many things that kept us both down spiritually for a long time. I mean, if I had just cut ties completely, I could probably be married right now. I could probably be working on my own family.
What kept you there? What kept you to him? I don't understand.
Well, moving is expensive, for one. So once I was there, I was kind of stuck there.
But why do you continue to go back to him? You know what he wants. You know that it's not healthy, but yet you continue to go back. And it brings us to this point where we are now. Okay, I mean,
I guess I physically,
you
I
keep
was
saying you knew that it wasn't healthy, and You knew it was contributing to something that wasn't good. And,
I think at the
but yet
time,
you guys continued to do it.
yeah, and part of my perspective now has to do with the fact that I'm going through a repentance process that I've worked out with, with my bishop, and he's given me, certain scriptures to read and ponder and pray about, and it brings me back to where I was prior to all that. I don't know how much I ever really was there as much as I am now, because even before I was baptized, even the 2 days before I was baptized, 4 days, it was on Wednesday and I was baptized on Sunday, before Thanksgiving, and it was just like Travis and I were making out, and that was prior to, we hadn't gone all the way at that point, but it was just too far. And I called him that evening and I said how it felt different. The first few times was like, hey, that was great, whatever. And then it just felt different this time, and it was right before I was about to be baptized, and I already had my interview, and so it was like, it was just different. And he said, well, yeah, he's like, I feel the same way, and I think that's the Spirit, telling us this, that, or the other. And so I think that by driving the Spirit away so much, you just get into this pattern of I don't know, it was convenient. There was a couple times where I didn't answer his text messages, and he would send me little sad faces, or eventually he would wait, and then he would call, and then he would call again, and if I didn't answer, he'd call 3 times.
And obviously you guys kept this relationship hidden from everybody else, and because nobody really knew about it.
Well,
there were some people who I talked to and said, yeah, they continued to have a relationship even after they broke up. And there are others who were saying that you had become obsessive with him to the point to where you would go into his house when he wasn't there, or when you weren't invited, and he would talk to people saying, she just kind of showed up, and I don't want to tell her to leave, but I don't want her here.
Oh, must have been early on, because there were a couple times when we established a rule early on, just don't come over unless, he said, you can come over anytime, but I need to know first.
Yes.
He's like, you just never know.
Because you ran into somebody one time, right? Didn't you run into like one of his ex-girlfriends as well, or was it Deanna that you ran into?
Oh yeah, well that was okay that I was there. He asked me to stay there and be with Napoleon, because that was during general conference in October of last year. He took a road trip with some friends from his church to Utah, and unless he's going to California, he pretty much leaves Napoleon at home. And so he needed someone to be there. And it's like I got full house privileges. I could sleep in the bed, I could eat, food.
And I've talked to her, and she said that was kind of an unusual kind of situation. She didn't expect you to be there.
She didn't at all. And so at first I was like, did you give Deanna any flack over coming over?
Jodi laughs through much of it, brushing off their arguments as being about silly things and philosophical differences. But as she talks, more and more inconsistencies pop up, and Flores doesn't miss a beat pointing them out.
Well,
There's towers dotted all over this place.
Yeah.
One tower hit here, the other tower here on the 93. There is no way somebody can get on that 15 and magically get on that 93. Because that 15 goes right through Las Vegas, right there, and continues this way. It never goes through Arizona again.
I got off before Las Vegas.
Okay.
I didn't get that close.
The 15, you'd have to go to Las Vegas and then come down south, go through Boulder City.
I went through Boulder City going north.
Did you cross over the
know.
dam?
Uh-huh.
You didn't think that was odd? You were crossing it over Arizona?
Well, after I figured out it was lost by then, and I found the 93 and then found my way back to the 15.
And this tower here, it's not just over the border in Arizona, it's quite a distance inside of Arizona that it hit. Because there's a mountain range all along here. And if you're on this side of the mountain range, pretty good distance, that signal's not going to hit Utah, or Nevada, or California. It's only going to hit in Arizona.
Well, I had somehow gotten off the 15 and got onto the 40. Is what happened.
Well, the only way you can get on the 40 is if after you cross the bridge. or the dam,
I think
Hoover Dam,
I think I got on the 40 in California.
from the 15.
After that, Jodi goes quiet. Flores steps out, leaving her alone in silence. When he returns, he's carrying a document with graphic crime scene photos. He tells her it's only a small piece of the evidence they've got.
One of the photos that was taken by accident. And this is just a small portion of it. It's your foot, Jodi. Those are your pants. No, it's off color because we had to enhance it and the color kind of changes a little bit. That's Travis.
This is his bathroom. That is not my foot.
These are your pants. It's a different color, like I said, because we had to enhance it and the color changes. The zipper back.
I have both of those pants at home. If these are the same one. I don't have a zipper there though. Not on mine. And this is a black stripe and this is white and the black goes around the bottom too.
Couldn't even recognize Travis. He'd been there so long.
I keep thinking of Brother Hyatt when I dress him.
You know, this is another one that's just a copy, but it's you. Same day. All time stamped, all everything. First picture here, Travis. Let's see. The date. 6/4/08 at 5:22 p.m. That's when it started. Photo of you started, you know, in Travis's bedroom. About 1:30, 1:45, something like
You
that.
know, I don't know what kind of camera I got.
Right there. See that?
That spot.
See the spots here? They look a different color because we used a chemical to enhance this. That right there, blood. It's a mixture of yours and his. And that's your palm print. Of your left palm.
I don't have any cuts on my left palm.
Nobody said that your cut was on palm. Do you have any recent cuts that are healing?
Well, my cat scratches me. Little things. These are all her work. You can see. This is her. That's her. I've got scars. She's a feral.
Jodi breaks down and starts crying. They go back and forth for a bit, but it's clear Flores is done playing along. In his mind, there's no doubt she's the killer.
Nobody.
Oh,
No evidence
I'm
of
just
it.
saying that if I were to carry out something like that, I would have worn gloves. I've got a
Nobody
whole
else.
box of
Nobody
gloves.
else did this. There's no evidence to show that anybody else did this, but you. You were the only one. That is it. And I'm not seeing any remorse. I'm not seeing anything from you to make me believe anything otherwise. You can continue to say, I didn't do it.
Well,
But you're the kid that got caught on videotape stealing the candy. And you continue to say, it wasn't me. I have the proof. I have the pictures. It wasn't me. I don't think you would admit to it if your own mother saw you do this and she told me, yeah, I saw her do this. You would say, no, it wasn't me. Why won't you admit to it?
I just can't. I didn't kill Travis. I just didn't. I did not take his life.
She continues sobbing, saying Travis meant the world to her and that she wishes she could apologize to him. But she'll never get the chance. Flores cuts her off, telling her to stop because he can't listen to any more lies. Jodi breaks down again.
Follow me forever.
I wish that I had answers. I'm sorry.
You need to just let the answers come out.
There's just no reason. There's just no reason.
There's no good reason why this happened. There's never a good reason why somebody dies like this.
How many times was Travis stabbed?
More than I want to remember. And I'm not going to sit here and show you pictures of him after the fact. I don't do that. That's not how I work. That is not for me to do. But eventually those photos will come out. Jodi. Jodi, we're here now. We're right here. I think you're feeling the reality in the moment now.
No, I'm just feeling all of the things that I'm going to potentially miss out on with my family, and I think of all the things that Travis's family is going to miss out on with Travis. And he had brothers and sisters, and I have brothers and sisters. And he... It's not fair.
It's not fair, but this is where we are.
I mean, I know that he's in a good place, and I know that he's fine. I know that he's doing great. But what about all of his friends, all of his family that are here, and they're just going through all of this, and I know that it's temporary, but it's so very much right now.
The whole interrogation is a train wreck. Flores is clearly fed up. He's not buying anything she's saying. For him, the facts are laid out. The only thing missing is a confession. But Jodi keeps rambling, deflecting, and denying. Then she drops this.
It's not going to be good.
It looks like you don't really need anything. It just looks like, I mean, it looks like you don't even need a good prosecutor anyway. So, I mean,
You're right.
I have to maintain my innocence. I can't admit to doing something that I haven't done. Part of me wants to cop out and say it.
No.
Well,
If you're gonna cop out, it's because you're telling the truth.
well, that's not really copping
Okay.
out.
Yeah, I don't want you to sit here and tell me a lie to appease me. That is the worst thing you can do for me. But back there in that mind of yours is somebody screaming to get out and tell me what happened, but you just cannot.
That marked the end of the first round. When the second interrogation begins, a female detective takes over. And she doesn't waste time. She gets straight to the point.
About him.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, you have an image. I understand that. You have an image to uphold, and you have to portray, you know, that you're a together, savvy woman. You know, not somebody who's fallen apart. So that's understandable.
I fall apart when you aren't looking, and when it's at night and I go to sleep. Travis always used to call me, not always, but very frequently, so that's the hardest part, is when I go to sleep at night, and if he wasn't calling, then I'd just call him, and sometimes I would just call anyway to just hear his voicemail.
So let me go back to, you know, the choices that you have, because again, there's no doubt in anybody's mind what happened that day. There's no doubt that you were involved that day that Travis died.
Listen, I know that I wasn't involved in Travis's death.
Okay.
And
But hold on, what you need to decide is, do you want to be portrayed as that cold-blooded killer?
Oh, that's what I was getting at.
Or do you want to be portrayed as somebody that was taken advantage of and, things just one thing led to another? You thought your relationship was headed in one direction and it wasn't, or, I don't know exactly the circumstances because I wasn't there. But I would certainly think that it's to your benefit to appear as this is something that just happened. You didn't plan it. It was, it was a heated moment, and you didn't mean to hurt him. Because you didn't mean to hurt him, did you?
I've hurt him very much emotionally, and I never meant to hurt him.
Okay.
He said that
So,
I hurt him more than the death of his father.
And I believe that. How
She tells Jodi there's no question she was involved. She offers her a chance to come clean, saying it would help her case. Jodi's response? That the only way she ever hurt Travis was emotionally.
I believe that everybody wants to tell the truth, because to keep that lie in tears you up emotionally, physically, mentally. I see that over and over and over again with people. And I believe that you don't want to be portrayed in the negative light that I've already... And I'm not making that stuff up. I mean, that's just reality, Jodi. That's the way our society works. That's the way this world works. And things are going to start moving real fast here for you. This is kind of a pause, before things, start getting heavy. This is your opportunity to help yourself out.
The detective keeps pushing, not aggressively, but directly and calmly. She tells Jodi it's not just about the police. It's about doing something for herself, too. Then she delivers a line that seems to finally get through to her.
We don't need you to tell us anything. I'm doing this for you. Arizona's case goes no matter what. They've got a rock-solid case. So what you say is basically irrelevant to their case. Not irrelevant, but it's not going to make it any better for them. But it certainly can help you out.
How can it help me? I mean, how can what I tell you today affect the media?
You take control of the situation as much as you can and paint whatever kind of picture you want to paint of yourself. Nobody's going to believe that you didn't do it after they see the evidence. It is what it is. But it's a matter of, do you want to take control of your situation and paint the picture of who you are, because you're the only one that knows that? Or do you want the media to take the evidence, all of the facts and the information, and paint their own picture of you? And as smart as you are, you know as well as I do that the media doesn't like to paint warm and fuzzy pictures. They would much rather paint the vicious, cold-blooded killer, because that sells. Am I right? So, do you want to control your situation? Paint your own picture? Or do you want to let somebody else do that for you?
I don't feel like I have any control over what the media says anyway.
Well, you do, to a certain degree. You can have the opportunity to tell your side of the story. Was it a matter of, like I said, this guy, Travis, building some sort of, what you thought was some sort of relationship? Were you hoping for marriage? Because I've heard a lot of talk about, possibilities of marriage, and I know that is...
It seems to hit a nerve. Jodi starts to wear down. She rests her head on her arm, barely speaks, but is clearly listening. The detective explains they don't need her confession. The evidence already ties her to the murder. But if she comes clean, it might help her in the long run.
Most Navajos that you meet today are really overweight, but they have their animals are starving. Everywhere you go, they got ribs sticking out. It used to make us both so mad. So Travis bought, we ended up splitting it, but Travis bought 7 cheeseburgers for 300 hungry dogs. And one was a mother puppies, and they just wolfed them down. We felt better, but we just felt like we couldn't do enough.
Then where did things go wrong, Jodi?
I don't know.
This is your chance to make at least something right. Even if it's on a small scale, it's a big deal to his folks.
Do they already know I'm in custody?
I'm sure they do.
Should they feel better about that much?
But they still need closure. I mean, just because you're in custody doesn't give them any closure. Is this something that you planned from day one? Is this something that you wish you could take back?
I wish I could change it. I wish I could rewind the clock.
What would you do if you rewound the clock?
I would have done everything I could to prevent it.
If your fate is inevitable in your mind, why wouldn't you give the family closure?
I don't know. I don't know if I can give them what they want. I don't know.
Wouldn't you at least want to try and let them make that decision? If it were my son, I would want all of the information I could, so that I could make some sense of it. Is this something that is so horrific in your mind that you don't even want to think that you could be capable of such a thing? So, that's the person that I was talking about, the person that is scared and remorseful and didn't want any of this to happen. So I don't think I was wrong, Jodi. This is your opportunity to make right on some of your selfishness. let the family decide how they're going to deal with that information and how they're going to use it. And why should they have any more suffering than they've already had? And your religion, and forgive me for my ignorance about it,
It's mostly just a Christian-based religion.
do they believe that the truth shall set you free?
I think, yeah, because it has to do with repentance.
Mm-hmm. And if it's just a Christian-based theology, then I would say they would.
I think it even says that in the Doctrine and Covenants, which is another part of our scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember if I just read that the other day.
Have you been giving much thought to that?
Not within the last 24 hours. I haven't really been thinking about a lot, except
You are the only person that has the information that the family seeks. They don't seek, crime scene information. They will already have that. They seek something that is on a much deeper level. It's an emotional level, and you are the only person that can help them with that.
I wasn't angry at Travis. Everyone keeps saying whoever did this was so angry.
Then what were you?
Finally, Jodi breaks. The detective keeps her cool. She knows she's close to getting what she needs. Jodi stays quiet for the most part, but says she wants to write a letter to Travis's family. The rest of the hour is mostly her sitting in silence while the detective tries to get her to open up, or at least offer a reason.
And you need to decide whether you're going to give that family closure or leave them with the picture that they have of you and wondering why their son died. That's it. That's the bottom line. That's what you need to decide. After today, things are going to go so fast for you. You're going to be totally out of control of the situation. The wheels of justice will start turning.
Then the female detective switches out again. She got the confession, but not the motive. Now it's up to another detective to try and dig deeper. Eventually, Jodi relaxes a bit and starts talking more.
Trust everybody.
Have you ever seen the movie The Secret?
I don't think so.
It's kind of, you're familiar with the whole law of attraction kind of thing. what you think you become or you bring into your life.
That's true.
He felt that if you lock your doors, then what are you telling the universe? What are you telling the ether out there? Is that I need to lock my door for a reason.
Yeah, I want to be safe.
Yeah, I want to be safe, which also gives the impression that, well, there's somebody that could hurt me. So, and by trusting and opening them to
He's a
yourself.
very, very trusting person. And that's what made him who he is. Most of us come from a different kind of background and have a different type of philosophy. Doing what I do for a living, I lock my doors.
I can imagine. Yeah, I guess me coming from Salinas, I've always locked my doors. I used to go to sleep at night and I would hear gunshots. We weren't in a bad neighborhood, but our neighborhood neighbored another neighborhood that wasn't that great, and gunshots scary. And there were, because Salinas is agricultural and there were a lot of fields, and I used to think that there were hunters in the fields with their dogs catching animals or something. They were all just gangs. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to.
That's okay. I've noticed that when I've talked to you, you kind of go off sometimes.
Travis used to be like, get to the point. Get to the point. And that made me kind of mad. He had a little bit of a double standard with that, because if you ever see him train or talk, he ask any of the leaders in prepaid legal, he is notorious for going too long. His friend Dave Hall in Utah cuts him off, and he got mad at him once because he went 5 minutes over, and he just talks and talks and talks. And I said, you're kind of long-winded yourself.
Well, he had a future in that. That's what he wanted to do,
Yeah,
and he was good
true.
at it.
He was so
really
good.
at it.
He talks about things of more substance, though, and I just ramble.
She even reminisces about Travis, speaking about him in a strangely affectionate way, despite having killed him. Then she slips up. While talking about a woman Travis was taking to Cancun, she accidentally says she knew, before quickly correcting.
I asked him at one point after I moved. I was like, hey, who are you taking to Cancun, by the way? I knew it wasn't. At one point, there was a girl named Brenda and she wasn't romantically involved. She was just in the business, and she saw me at the memorial, and she's like, now, wasn't he going to take you to Cancun? And that was like, we found out about Cancun a year prior, right about the time we broke up. And so, like, I never really assumed that I had a ticket there. And, as things went on, it was just never discussed. So there was never any discussion.
That never went to your head then.
Yeah, there was never a discussion that I was going to Cancun.
The rest of the interrogation is more of the same. Detectives trying to get a full confession, a motive, anything. But Jodi keeps changing her story, and no one's buying it.
We were talking about
The
Cancun issue, ma'am. You never told the detective about the Cancun issue, did you?
what Cancun issue?
Do you remember that we're talking about Travis Alexander? Let's start with that.
Yes, I remember that.
That's why we're...
Fast forward to 2013. Jodi finally goes on trial for first-degree murder. The case blows up nationally with millions tuning in, and when the verdict drops, it's what many expected, guilty. But the drama didn't end there. The jury couldn't agree on whether she should get the death penalty or life in prison, leading to a mistrial.
Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
A second penalty phase took place in 2014, with the same question hanging in the air, life or death. In the end, the jury gave her life without parole.
Tell us just minutes ago that she was suicidal.
She
Didn't you?
told us she was suicidal.
I understand that's what you're saying now. I'm asking you to think. You don't have any memory problems, do you?
No.
I'm asking you to think back to maybe 5 minutes ago.
Jodi Arias was arrested in California and charged with first-degree murder. She pleaded not guilty, and after years of delays, her trial finally began on January 2nd, 2013. On the stand, she changed her story once again, this time claiming she killed Travis in self-defense after he attacked her for dropping his new camera. She said she blacked out during the stabbing. Her version of events kept shifting, and the public couldn't look away. Jodi's story sparked massive public interest in debates around domestic violence, mental health, and the criminal justice system. Even today, her name is forever linked to one of the most disturbing and talked about murder cases in modern U.S. history.